Call hala yamla Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Waha Raha Kwadash. All praises and glory go to you, Lord. Double honors and respect go to our apostles, our elders, and our teachers, the men of great millstone. To you I say shalom. It's your brother Ryan. Let's get into it. What I wanted to go into today is the curse of the proverb and the byword. And we'll read those scriptures momentarily. But what brought me into this message is I watched a video earlier today. Several elders and apostles have touched on the matter, but it was a lady on a video, an Israelite woman, who looked like a so-called Negro, basically running her mouth about something that is above her understanding, upset at camps that have members that she deemed Caucasian. She didn't look at their spirit or anything. She just made her judgments. And I liken her on to Miriam. Those of you in the truth understand that Miriam was Moses' sister and began to speak basically rough against the men of the Lord, her brother, and how things were being determined. And the Lord, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and Yahweh whom you ignorantly call God, Yahweh Shai is his son, whom the world ignorantly recognizes as Jesus, put her in her place by striking her with leprosy. So I liken this lady from the videos everyone has been responding to onto Miriam. Okay. Now, in my research of this subject, I came across this. And it says the use of the terms Negro and Black to include persons of Native American ancestry in Anglo-North America, okay, by Jack Forbes. And we're going to read a little bit of this. We're also going to touch on a few scriptures on the matter, but let's just get into it and slice this up, okay? Now it says, in 1854, the California Supreme Court sought to bar all non-Caucasians from equal citizenship and civil rights. The court stated, the word black may include Negroes, but the term Negro does not include all black persons. We are of the opinion that the word white, Negro, mulatto, and black person, whenever they occur in our Constitution, must be taken in their generic sense, that the words black person in the 14th section must be taken as contra, distinguished from white, and necessarily includes all races other than the Caucasian. And Caucasian is, cave dweller, the so-called white man that rule in the world today. But as we know in the truth, is the biblical nation of Esau, Edom. They like to be labeled white. Okay, so the self-proclaimed white man that rules in the world today is truly the nation of Esau, Edom, spoken of in the scriptures. Now, continue reading. As convoluted as the quote may be, it tends to express a strong tendency in the history of the United States towards creating two broad classes of people, white and non-white, citizen and non-citizen. Okay, so what this is saying in layman's terms is they wanted a line between the races, okay, the nationalities in this country. And they weren't going to divide up nationalities according to nationalities. They were going to divide them up through this social construct, black and white, okay? The whites would receive rights under the Constitution. The blacks, they would be considered non-citizens and would not receive rights. As a matter of fact, there are laws and on the books to this day that label anyone labeled black as 3/5 of a man, okay? Continue reading. The tendency to create a two-caste society, often clashed with the reality of a territory which included many different types of people of all colors and different degrees of intermixture of European, American, African, and Asian, Native American people, whether of unmixed ancestry or mixed with other stocks, were at times affected by the tendency to create a purely white-black social system or social construct. especially when living away from the reservation or the ancestral homeland. Okay, so if you're not knowing, Negroes, Native Americans, and Latinos were all labeled as black people. Okay, they were all called niggers or Negroes. All these different bywords were put on these sections of people. Yet you could have someone of the same skin hue or tone, and they would come into this country, say an East Indian or whatever their byword is, other nationalities that were accepted by the so-called Caucasian, and they would be labeled as white. They would receive, it's like that into this day. They would receive the benefits of the Constitution, having constitutional rights, Bill of Rights, and anyone labeled black again was labeled 3/5 of a man. Now I'm going to skip down a little bit, talking about the Native Americans in particular. The possibility that Native Americans were quite commonly called Negroes is very much supported by Portuguese usage. During the colonial period, Brazilian Indians were repeatedly referred to as Negroes or as Negros da Terra, Negroes of the land. A great many examples from the 16th and later centuries are cited by George Friederichi in his analysis of Portuguese sources. These do not have to be repeated here, but suffice to say that it was common that finally in 1755 a royal decree had to be issued as follows. Among the regrettable practices which have resulted in the disparagement of the Indians, one prime abuse is the unjustifiable and scandalous practice of calling them Negroes. Perhaps by so doing, the intent was no other than to induce in them the belief that their origins had been destined to be slaves of whites, as in generally conceded to be the case of blacks from the coast of Africa. Okay, and I'm going to skip down a little bit more. It says I'm beginning at the bottom of page 12. By the latter half of the 16th century, the English were referring to the people of Africa as Ethiopians, blackamoors, Negroes, and Moors. Somewhat interchangeably, Negro gradually came to be the dominant term, especially after exhaustive contact with the Spanish and the Portuguese. What is not clear is the extent to which the term Negro was consciously translated as black. Now, this is where I'm going to stop because I want to get some scriptures on the matter, but let me explain this. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians, despite any literature going into it, it's not going to tell you the true history of the peoples, okay? So we must filter this one through the scriptures, but I'm going to also tell you that the reason why you were labeled black is to describe that you have no light, that you're evil, that you're bad, because they wanted to distance you from themselves, which they labeled white, as pure, as holy, as, godly people. It also has to do with your actual origins. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians all at one time dwelt on the side of the world and were labeled Yasha Allah, the children of Israel, okay? And Yasha Allah means he, Prince of the Power. You are the children of the Most High Yahweh, and you're the people of Yahweh Shai, okay? And the reason why they labeled you this is to distance you from your heritage and to put you in subjection under themselves. And this was all spoken of in the scriptures, that this would happen to us as a people for being disobedient to our power, Yahweh, and not following his laws, statutes, and commandments, okay? Now let's get into it. Now this is Deuteronomy chapter 28. And what is described in Deuteronomy chapter 28 are blessings and curses that shall go towards the The people of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians, you confusion of faces, you speckled birds, those whose lineage through their fathers go back to being Israelites. This describes blessings if you were obedient to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and curses if you were disobedient to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. In this matter, we're not going to go over the blessings. We're going to go over some of the curses, okay? And for this, we will skip down to verse 15. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command ye this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." Okay? So if you don't listen, this is what is going to happen to you, which is what was described in the law of Moses, as they say. Cursed shall thou, verse 16, cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. So thy pockets are going to be affected. Thy increases or bountifulness of your labors will be affected. Okay? You're not going to have much because your basket is cursed, your store is cursed. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall be thou when thou comest in, and cursed shall be thou when thou goest out. Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Okay, so if you forget Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and we'll say Yahweh in this instance because Yahweh Shai will come along later in the picture, but he was always there. He is the word, okay? If you were not going to be obedient to the law, statutes, and commandments, the Lord was going to bring the pain to your doorsteps, okay? Verse 21, Yahweh shall make the pestilence cleave on to thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it. And I liken this on to what happened to the Native Americans in South America when the conquistadores came along and began to spread disease and pestilence among them, which pretty much wiped out almost their entire civilization. Okay. Now, you can read in 2nd Ezra how they found themselves on this side of the world. I'm sure, what is the pilgrim's name that came over here? The conquistador. I forget now. We'll get into it in a minute. But the conquistador that came over here wound up bringing sicknesses and things of that nature with them, and it pretty much wiped out. That is a portion of the curses, as described in verse 21. Verse 22, Yahweh shall smite thee with the consumption, and with fever, and with inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting and mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Okay? So a whole lot of curses were to happen to the children of Israel because of their disobedience. And this is what we find ourselves in today. We find ourselves under these curses. And these curses are not going to get off of us until the return of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, the Son of the living power Yahweh. When he returns, then these curses shall be lifted off of us. Until then, we must endure, okay? Now, I don't want to read all the curses. I'm going to skip down to the part that has to do with the byword, the proverb and the byword, okay? So for this, we skip down quite a bit to verse 37. Actually, I'll begin at verse 36. Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Right, okay? This is the beginning of the stages in the land of America, Babylon the Great, okay? This is describing our current captivity. This curse deals with us now. We're over here in a land ruled by a people that are foreign to us, the so-called White man is the nation of Esau, Edom, who received rulership over us due to our disobedience. We are now under them. And when they came across us, they spoke Portuguese, Spanish, English, all these different languages that had nothing to do with the Hebrew that our people spoke when they came on to us, which is why Christopher Columbus, that's his name, brought several Hebrew translators with him because he knew that the people he would encounter on this side of the world, the so-called Native Americans, would be speaking Hebrew. And as well as the west coast of Africa, the Igbo, what you know today as the Nigerian people, their original languages were Hebrew. They were speaking Hebrew, okay? Which is why they changed your languages. They put you in these schools, you so-called Native Americans. They put you in these schools, removed your heritage, that you would be stripped of your identity. And this is a part of the curses that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai will put on his people. The same thing has happened to the so-called Negro. You were stripped of your heritage, taught a different language, given different names, and stripped of your identity, okay, which these imposters have now taken on. Verse 37, and here's the point. This is why you are labeled Negroes, 2/5, 3/5 of a man, Salakia, in this country, non-citizens, as the article went into, because the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai was livid with you and decided to strip you of any and all trace of your identity. Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword, which is why you were labeled Negroes, okay? And they're so stupid, these people that have taken over rulership over us. They are truly the basis of all men because they have no understanding of what happened, okay? They have no fear of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, so they do unto you things that are unholy and downright perverse. And what they didn't understand, if Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai would do it to his own children, right? What the hell was going to be the end of you when you decided to lay your hands on his precious jewels? But that's a lesson for another time. Verse 37 again, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether Yahweh shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather it but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but thou shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather of the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all the coast, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. Okay? Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Now, this article describes you being Negro or labeled black, synonymous with your slavery. Okay? They go hand in hand. And the title of this article is The Use of the Term Negro and Black to Include Persons of Native American Ancestry in Anglo-North America, because they were going to steal your lands. You're going to work the shit out them lands. You weren't going to benefit any of your labor because you are in captivity. You are a slave under these people, which is why the term black and Negro were synonymous with slavery, which is why you are considered a non-citizen, huh? Oh, let's get it. A non-citizen. See, the Lord knew exactly who you were, and he tracked your asses down and used the so-called white man as a whipping stick for your ass, okay? Now, I want to end out on something. This is Acts chapter 13 and verse 1. It says, now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that were called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up to Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Okay, now why is this scripture in particular important? Let's get it. I have this now in the blue letter. It says again, now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, children of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, Yasha Allah, as Barnabas and Simeon that were called Niger. By the way, these slack-jawed, inbred, so-called white people can't say the word. All right? So you got all these different bywords and proverbs put on you. Quite frankly, they're not the smartest tool in the shed. But the word Niger, we're going to find out what that means. Okay?
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
Right. As they call you into this day. And as some of you ignorant ones out here tend to use this term like it's some type of term of endearment and not even know what it means. And my mother always used to say, don't use a word if you don't know what it means. So we're going to get the meaning for you right now. The word Niger is of Latin origin. Latin is a language of Rome, your oppressor, your captors, okay? And what does it mean? The word Niger means Christian, a black person, okay? Now, I don't mean black as in terms of slave, etc., but a very dark brown-skinned hewn person. So the word Niger or nigger or Negro all goes back to the tone, the skin color of you, okay? Which is a very, very dark brown, despite them using the word black here to describe it. And you people out here don't understand who all was labeled so-called black. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians were the people labeled black or void of light or evil by your oppressor because you are in fact the children of the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua. Hopefully this has been edifying. I want to say, Call Halayim La Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua for this message. Until the next time, Shalom. Oh, and until all you false prophetess and you filthy communicators out here teaching the word, twisting it up, not knowing what the hell you're talking about, you can eat a dick. Shalom. By the way, I just wanted to add this at the end real quick. As you can see in 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 7, it says, Then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight. And Israel, Yasha Allah, shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 20. And you can do your research on these because, again, the Lord was clear on the curses that would befall you if you were disobedient to his word. Then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land which I have given them. And this house which I have sanctified for my name, Yasha Allah, will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among all nations. Until Yahushua Hamashiach comes to redeem us, we are going to continue to remain under these curses. So it would behoove you to repent, to identify with your nationality, which is the nation of Israel, true Israelites, if you're a so-called Negro, Latino, or North American Indian. And of course, you confusion of faces and speckled birds, because Israel has been scattered to the four corners of the earth. Okay, hopefully this has been edifying. Shalom.